Hey there, I'm Jenny Wright, and I want to welcome you to episode 8 in List Build and Lead. And today we're going to be talking about the biggest mistakes I've made in list building and some that I've seen other people do. So before I dive in, I want to let you know that this episode is brought to you by my very own challenge that I'm doing with Natalie Blaze. It's called From List to Launch. It's going to start on September 30th, and at the time of this recording, that's about a week away, and so there's still time for you to join. This is a special 5-day challenge where we're going to give you the roadmap on how to build your list and then sell a simple course to it. So it's going to be a beautiful 5-day, really informative challenge, and you can join it by going to FromListToLaunch.com/join. So I'd love to see you there. Okay, so let's dive in. I'm going to share some stories with you today. I'm going to get vulnerable with you today. I'm going to give you information today that I hope will help you not make the mistakes that I did. I started this business 8 years ago almost. And in that 8 years, I feel like I spent 2 or 3 of those years making some really big mistakes. And had I not made those mistakes, I truly believe I'd be so much further along in this business than I am right now. And so I want to give you this information so that you don't make the same mistakes that I do, and so that you can take this information and really jump forward in your list building so your business can grow that much faster. Okay, does that sound good? So let's start with number 1. And actually before that, I want to ask you a little bit if this resonates with you. So this topic is all about the mistakes that I've made. And I want to say, you know, when I first started out, my email marketing list consisted of several friends, my best friend, a couple of acquaintances that I met in a Facebook group, and a couple family members, and that was it. So in the first 16 months, I think I had about 34 people on my list, and 3/4 of those were people I had met in Facebook groups. They were contemporaries, they were not potential clients. And then, like I said, the rest was family or people that were, you know, friends and acquaintances, like my best friend. So that wasn't really helpful for me. And so if this sounds like something, you know, if you're at that space, then this is definitely a really good episode for you. So keep listening, because I'm going to help you with that. So the next thing is that maybe you have a small list, and it's okay to have a small list. You know, you can be small and mighty, you can be small and strong. But if you don't know what to send to them, and you don't know how to communicate with them, and you don't know how to create that consistency that'll get them to make a purchase from you or be part of whatever it is that you're building, then that's an issue, right? So if you identify with that, stay tuned, because I want to share a couple of things with you today that's going to help. Okay. And if you're not sure what kind of list build is good for your business, is the right thing for your business right now, or even worse, you're not sure if you're worthy of creating a list build. And when I say worthy, this might connect with you, might trigger you a little bit. And this is where I want to go a little deeper and explain a little bit about the mindset and that feeling that we don't belong. We started this business, it may not work out. Maybe we need to go back and get a job, a real job, as they say, or, you know, we're not cut out for this. Okay, so I'm going to address all of those things in this episode. So stay tuned. And hopefully it helps you. Okay, so the first mistake, huge mistake that I made was that in 8 years, so it's been about 8 years since I started the business, that I feel like I really didn't focus on the right things for about 2.5 years. Okay, and that's really hard for me to say, because I know for a fact that had I focused on the right things in those 2.5 years, I'd be so much further along in trying to get to my goals. And I know that I'd be able to serve more people. So it really frustrates me to have made that kind of mistake. And the mistake that I made was that I was scattered. I was trying to serve all people. At the time I was a VA. And I believed that I could be the VA to everybody. All right. And that's a huge mistake. Thinking, you know, I was funny enough, I started out on Fiverr. I know, and there's a whole story there for another time. But when I was on Fiverr, and this was my breaking in point into the industry, I was doing research for other people's websites. I was doing data capture. I was creating blogs. I was writing. I even dabbled a little bit in web design. At one point, I created like 3 or 4 websites for real estate agents. And I was doing, at one point, I was actually doing some calendar management. And then eventually I ended up getting hired by a company, a bilingual company that needed me to do online conference calls. You know, when you call into a bridge line and it's like, please hold while your other attendees join the conference. I was doing that, but I was doing it in English and French. But that's a story for another time. But my point is that I was doing everything. I wasn't focusing on one thing. And it wasn't until I got the bug for list building, and that was probably about a year and a bit in, that I really started honing in on what I wanted. But the funny thing is that even though I knew I wanted to do list building, I was still scattered. So I was trying to do list building in all the ways, as opposed to focusing on a couple things that really would help me. So, and this is, embarrassingly enough, this is also how I felt in my personal life. I felt very scattered. I was transitioning out of being in a day job, and the transition from getting out of a day job where you've been, 9 to 5 or whatever the case is for a number of years, it's like a mourning process. You have to mourn the loss of that job, and you have to accept that things will never be the same again as an entrepreneur. There's nobody checking your schedule. There's nobody doing all the things that they do in the 9 to 5 job. And you really have no safety net that you do in that day job. And I really had to mourn the fact that I was an entrepreneur. So I felt really scattered. I didn't create consistency in my own life, in my day-to-day life. And so the business was scattered, and really growth was completely hampered by that. Okay, so if you identify with that and that sort of resonates with you, let me know, because I really, I know there's so many people out there struggling just the way I did, and I want to prevent that as much as possible. And that's what I'm going to do today. Okay, so the next thing is I wasn't clear on who I wanted to serve. And I think, I mentioned that a little bit about being a VA and thinking I could serve all the people, and I couldn't. And then the next thing I did is when I was creating content, it was without a clear direction. It was haphazard. I was just grasping topics here and there. I wasn't being consistent. I had no schedule. And I sure as heck, funny enough, for somebody who could write, and I used to do speech writing, I used to write newsletters, and I used to write press releases in my day job. I was a content creation machine in my day job. And for somebody who used to have to do ghostwriting for the president and CEO of the company I worked for, I couldn't write anything about myself or two other people to save my life. I just couldn't get it done. And that was a huge learning curve for me. And it really, really upset me that I couldn't write. When I tried to put pen to paper for this business, I was struggling. I'd look at that blank page and that blinking cursor for hours. Does that sound familiar? Like, does that kind of get with you what's going on? Holy crap, that was so hard. And it wasn't until I identified really, really clearly on who my ideal client was for now. And let me put a caveat on there. Your ideal client right now, where you are in this business, does not mean that you're going to be your ideal client 4 or 5 years from now. Your business 3, 4, 5 years from now is going to look vastly different than it does right now. But you do need to pick a lane for the time being and focus on it. Okay. And so that's really identifying your ideal client avatar now. Now you can do the pivoting later to another ideal client avatar, but for the sake of what we're talking about, it's good to hone in. Okay. So the next thing I did is, when I did have clients who really, really enjoyed working with me and got a big benefit out of working with me, is I wasn't collecting testimonials and I wasn't making any case studies. I know that sounds kind of funny, like, oh God, like I hate asking people if they like their work with me, or how do I ask somebody to write a testimonial, or what do? It's a lot easier than you think, but you got to do it. So the more testimonials and the more gathering of information and feedback that you get, that becomes that proof that you are expert at what you do and you're good at what you do. And then when you go to actually create something like a lead magnet or a sales page, that proof, those testimonials, those case studies that you can build are the things that are going to help create that know, like, and trust factor and get people to convert more easily into what you're doing. So the next thing I did is I had no consistency in anything. I never posted on social with any consistency. I never sent an email with consistency. There was a time where I was sending an email every 2 months if I was lucky. And the reason is that I was so stuck in my head that I had to serve. I felt like Cinderella. And I mean, if you know me, then I have used this phrase before. I felt like Cinderella, that I had to get everybody else's work done before I could go to the ball, and the ball being working on my business. And that was something that I struggled with. And I figured it out that it came from when I worked in customer service. Okay, so I worked in our retail wholesale environment, and the mandate is that, you know, you got to serve the customer, you got to serve that client, that member. And I was in customer service for a very, very, very long time. One job was almost 15 years. And then prior to that, I worked for my parents in a customer service job. And I did that from like age 11 to 20. So customer service was a really long time, and this was drilled into me. So I really, really struggled with focusing on myself and building my business and focusing time for me. And it wasn't until I started structuring my life and my schedule that I started focusing on my business. Then I was able to create consistency, and consistency is huge. Okay. So if you can if this makes sense, and if you're relating to this, good, grab these nuggets and put them into play. And consistency is a game changer for your business. Okay. I'm telling you. The next thing is that I had a huge block around promoting myself. I loved being in the shadows. I loved being behind the camera. Oh my God, I hated doing all of this camera stuff. But nobody knew who the heck I was. And here I am, you know, I've done 240 plus summits, over 250 webinars, you know, podcasts, and all these different setups that I've done for clients and for ourselves. And I see you know, the people in my industry who are at the same level or at a lower level than me, experience-wise, getting on podcasts, speaking from stages, creating their sales pages, you know, making money, posting that they're going on vacation with their family, or they're buying a new house or a car. And here I am struggling, living in a really crappy apartment at the time, and feeling really crappy about myself. Okay. And it was my, excuse my language, it was my shit. It was my problem. It was my view of myself that I didn't deserve it, that nobody would want to hear from me. I had no idea what I wanted to say, and then nobody was going to listen. And all of that is just stories we tell ourselves. Okay. So if you can take something from today, take that with you. It's just the story you're telling yourself. There are people out here who want your message. You just got to get it to them and deliver it in a way that they can digest, if that makes sense. So the biggest thing that I want to talk to you, I guess, about was not believing in myself. You know, here I was living in an apartment building that just made me feel like a loser. I felt really scattered in my life. I was unhappy with how I looked or how I felt in certain things, and the business wasn't performing as a result. As soon as I started dealing with the feeling of not believing in myself, and trust me, changing apartments, sure, that was a great thing, but if I just changed where I lived and didn't work on the rest of it, nothing else would change. It was a transformation that I had to work on, and it's taken me years. Okay. And it's gotten me to the point now where I do believe in myself. And sure, I have setbacks, but I believe in myself enough to know that there's information that I have that people want, and I'm willing to spend the time and the effort in creating it and getting it out there. All right, so let's recap really quickly on this. These are the big list build failures that happened in my business that I want you to avoid. One, I absolutely didn't focus on list building right away in this business. I spent a lot of time feeling scattered, and I didn't focus in. Two, I wasn't clear on who I served. I thought I served all people. Wow, no, I don't. Three, created content that had no clear direction, had no call to action, and I flip-flopped over that a lot. Four, I didn't ask for testimonials or case studies. I didn't create that social proof so that when I did post something, people didn't know who the heck I was. Five, I did not drive any traffic to any of the stuff that I was doing because I wasn't posting, I wasn't sharing, right? I also I was not sending emails with any consistency. I wasn't creating any consistency with any posting that I did. And then I also had no belief in myself, or sorry, not promoting myself. That's number 9. I didn't promote myself. I honestly didn't think people would care. And then number 10 is I wasn't believing in myself. All right. I really didn't think I was worthy of creating all this and having people check it out. And I really didn't think I was the expert in the field, even though, I mean, I don't know anybody who's done as many summits as I have. I don't know anybody who's set up and run as many webinars as I have, or, you know, podcasts and all these different kinds of things. I just don't know anybody who's done as much of them as I have. And it took me a really long time to realize that I am an expert in my niche. So I want you to take away from this what you can in terms of, if it gets your butt in gear to get out there and list build, if it gets your butt in gear in posting on social and being more consistent, because that is where a lot of people are going to come from for you, then I hope that it helps, okay? And so to wrap up, I just want to remind you that the 5-day challenge that I'm launching really, really soon with Natalie Blaze is going to tackle a lot of this and create that roadmap for you in terms of list building. And it's going to take you to the next step, because we're also going to share the blueprint on how you can create a quick and easy course, an online course that you can sell. Okay, so we're going to give you the roadmap to do a list build, one that is perfect for your business, and then how to create a digital course that you can sell right off the back end of that list build and create some income into your business. So if that sounds good to you, please join me. It's going to be at from listbuildtolaunch.com/join, and I hope to see you there. Okay, thanks for being here. Hope this was helpful, and I'll see you again on the next episode. Take care. Bye.